Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to my tier list for the Guns in the XDefiant Beta. I spent a lot of time playing the beta, and I spent a few hours today making sure I got some time in with the last few guns that I had not used yet. And I feel pretty comfortable in giving a general rating of each of the guns and where I think they kind of sit. I will admit that there were a couple of guns I could have spent some more time with and kind of finding their niches, but there were just some of them that I was like, I don't even want to touch this anymore. It's not fun. I'm not having a good time with it. So, without further ado, let's get into it. I'm going to start off with the pistols just because those are, always equipped to you. You're always going to have a secondary, unlike most other games. So, I'm going to start off with the B93R. I'm going to put it in D tier. Um, it really did not meet expectations as far as what I thought it was going to be capable of. I thought it was going to be a really strong secondary that could hold its own, get a kill or two with each clip. But I found that the burst was just super inaccurate while using it. This game is super movement based, and the fact that you can't move and shoot with this thing is just really atrocious. So I don't really think it falls into a category of something that I would want to use consistently. I think it does have its own kind of niche ability, and like it's got a unique like ability to kind of finish enemies off. But if you're switching to your pistol to finish enemies off, a lot of times you've already lost the gunfight. So yeah, D tier, definitely not my favorite pistol out of the secondaries, but it's not the worst pistol, definitely. Next up, I'm gonna pull up the M9. Speaking of the worst pistol, I really think the M9 might be the worst pistol in the game. I maybe spent 2 or 3 games with it. Every time I pulled it out, I did not get a single kill. It might have been like a hit detection thing, but it felt like most of the shots just didn't go where I was aiming them. The bullet power was just non-existent. It was like 17 damage a shot, and so like it's basically a 6-shot kill. Cool that it has 15 shots in the chamber, but it's just not worth the time. I don't really have much to say about it. I didn't use it much. I didn't like it much. I thought it was dog water. Hopefully they adjusted it in the release of the game, because honestly, I don't think it's usable right now. The Deagle, I think, is a C tier pistol. It's not good and it's not bad. It has the stopping power and like the fire rate to be something that you could use in a like niche situation that you like run out of ammo or something. But it's still a pistol, and so you're gonna lose a lot of gunfights with it. I didn't really feel like it had a lot of long range capabilities, which was typically what I was looking for in a lot of my pistols, since I found that the submachine guns in the game were probably the best class of weapons out of everything. So it wasn't terrible long range, but it was still like a 5-shot kill at long range, and that's really difficult to work with. So yeah, definitely C tier. I think it could be improved on a little bit, but definitely not like the worst pistol. That brings me over to the Magnum, which I'm also going to put in C tier, above the Deagle. Really strong actually, and it's a 2 to 3 hit kill depending on where you hit the enemy and like what part of the body you hit them in. But that was my go-to for like long range. So if I was like running a shotgun, my Magnum was my secondary. And if I got into an engagement that I felt like my shotgun wasn't going to be any good in, the Magnum got pulled out, and it was like 40-60 on whether or not I would get the kill. It felt competent. If you hit your shots with it, it's really strong. But that's the thing, is you only get 6 bullets. So if you're facing off against 2 enemies, this pistol is really just never going to give you any sort of an advantage. That being said, the 1911, I actually think this is really good. I didn't mess around with it enough to find kind of the exact layout that I think it should be in, but the 1911 does good damage. It's got a decent clip size. There were multiple times where I could kill 2 enemies with a single 1911 extended mag clip. And the handling of it felt very good. It was easy to move around with. Hop shooting was easy with it. I think that's going to be the go-to secondary. I didn't really get a chance to try it out at long range since I didn't put it on any of my short range classes, but I mean, it's a pistol, so I wouldn't expect it to do well at long range. I think that the Magnum definitely has it outclassed there, but as far as secondaries goes, I think it's the best one, and I actually think it's a decent option versus some of the other pistols that when you pull them out, you're kind of just SOL, you're not going to win the gunfight. I'm going to move over to the shotguns now. I'm going to just kind of pick and choose the order that we go to as I finish up one class of weapons. So I'm going to start with the double barrel. I'm going to put the double barrel in C tier. Man, it's so strong. It's so strong. It's actually really good. But that 2-shot barrel and the reload time on it are just absolutely impossible to work with. You know, again, like the hit registration in the beta was like really rough. I'm hoping that when the game releases, they kind of work on that a little bit. But with the double barrel, it's like, you know, you could one tap somebody, and there were plenty of times where I got a 2-piece with it. But honestly, like running around with it, you know, even at like medium distance, it was like if I didn't hit the first shot, then it was definitely just something that I was never really going to be able to win the gunfight in. And if you had to reload it, you know, you're not getting any kills. The reload time on it was really, really atrocious. I didn't like it. It felt clunky, but it was very strong. And so C tier, it goes somewhere in the middle. It's definitely not the worst shotgun, but it is not my favorite one either. The AA-12, however, which not on the list, funnily enough, so we'll skip that for a second. The M87 B tier, better than the double barrel. You know, 5-round clip. I ran around with it for a little bit. Definitely one of the guns that I could have spent more time with, but didn't. Just because there's not a lot of really good shotgun maps in the game, and the good shotgun maps are even better for SMGs. 90% of the time, if you're winning gunfights with a shotgun, you're going to be losing them against SMGs. You know, the guns feel very balanced in this game, but that being said, like, they're balanced in certain ways. And because the hit detection on the shotguns were just so weird, there was a lot of times where I felt like I should have been getting kills, and there was a lot of times that I didn't. But that being said, like, the M87 was probably the best of the shotguns out of the 3. So, you know, B tier, it's good. It's not great. It's definitely like, it's a shotgun. It does what it's supposed to do really well. And it can handle multiple enemies at once. I definitely got a few 3-pieces, and I think even a 4-piece during my time playing with it. So there's no AA-12 on here, so I'll try to come back and do that one and clip that in there. But for now, we will jump over to the marksman and the sniper rifles. I'm going to do them at the same time. I know they kind of classify differently. But let's start with the TAC 50. I'm going to give the TAC 50 D tier, even below the B93. That, man, it just feels so clunky. It feels so clunky and hard to use. I tried to put ADS speed on it. I feel like I put every ADS speed attachment that I could on it, and it just constantly felt so impossible to use. Anytime I pulled the scope up, it didn't feel like I was getting my shots to go where I wanted them to. I was really unhappy with the way that the TAC 50 handled. Hopefully they work on it a little bit and make it a little bit smoother to kind of work with. Definitely there was a lot of times where, and again, this might just come down to the hit detection, there was times where I would shoot and I was like, my shot was right on him, and I didn't get the shot. And even worse than that, like, I'm sure that there were 3 or 4 times where I could have gotten a collateral. This is supposed to be a 50 caliber gun, and I would get a hit marker on both players that I would have collateraled. Not saying that's how it's always going to be, or maybe I just missed my shot, but I mean, that's super frustrating. If I'm going to play an FPS game that's supposed to be Call of Duty-esque, I want to be able to collateral people. If people are running next to each other and I'm shooting a 50 caliber gun, I should be able to collateral 3, 4, 5 players all at the same time. So D tier, not my favorite gun. Handled really poorly, but it does kill. You know, hit markers if you hit them in the arm still, but kills to the chest, kills to the head. I mean, it's good. It's okay. But it's really not great. The M44, however, really good. Really solid. Felt really smooth to play with. I wasn't super happy that, like, there was a really limited option of scopes, and it feels like all of the scopes like slowed down your ADS time unless you used an ACOG. The ACOG's really not comfortable to use in this game. So, but in the couple of games that I ran around with it, it felt nice. It hit a lot of shots. There were a lot of 2-on-1 opportunities that I had that I won because I hit my shot with it. And that's something that, you know, I'll go into a little bit more at some point about. This game is very like hit your shot focused. If you hit your shots before your opponent does, it definitely feels rewarding. And any gun that can give you that, like, none of the guns really give you an advantage in a one-on-one, but there are some guns that can win a lot more two-on-ones than the others, and that's kind of where this tier list falls into, is how many two-on-ones can you win, or how many three-on-ones can you win. The N44 can win two-on-ones. It was actually pretty surprising. The quick scoping felt pretty good. You know, I would love to run around with the gun a little bit more and do some like sniping kind of. It would be the sniper that I use for sure. Leading me into the MK20. A lot of people had this up pretty high, and I thought so as well. But I'm gonna put it in B tier. I think that it is good. It's a two. I mean, it's a two-tap machine. But you know, it goes back to what I said earlier about, like, you have to hit your shots with it. If you miss even 2 shots with it, you're probably dead. And with the hit detection the way that it was in the beta, like, any gun that wasn't fully automatic, you were probably going to be struggling with. But I definitely saw some other people playing with it who were having a little bit of a better experience with their hit detection. The gun's very strong. I can imagine that they're going to be making some adjustments to it. But it is strong. It is good. I think it's going to be a staple for a lot of players. The fire rate's a little bit of an issue, which is why I'm putting it down at the B tier. Like I said, you're only going to get 3 or 4 shots off with this thing. So if you miss one of them, you miss 2 of them, you're probably losing your gunfight. That leads me to the SVD. A tier. Man, I was thoroughly impressed by the SVD. I expected it to be absolutely terrible, especially after playing with the MK20. I was like, surely that it's not going to be as good as the MK20, but it is a consistent 2-shot. The fire rate on it is very decent. The handling of it is really nice, and it's a 1-tap to the head if you're using a pyro class. That it does 98 to the head, and then the two fire damage, tick damage that you get by being in the fire class. Yeah, I mean, it's strong. Like anything that 1-taps to the head is going to be strong, of course. You know, again, like, more time getting used to handling the SVD could be very useful, but the fact that it 1-taps to the head and it's a 2-tap to the body is really, really strong, and like, it has the capability of shooting the distance. I could see this getting balanced down a little bit. Honestly, I think that they're going to make some adjustments to it, but I didn't really hear anybody talking about it, so I might be wrong. But yeah, the SVD was really, really good. I thought that they did a great job with how that one handled and how it was how it felt like in your hands. I'm gonna move over to the LMGs. There are only 2 of them, or there's 3 of them. Sorry, so there's 3 of them. I'll start with the M60. I'm gonna put the M60 probably here in the B tier. All of the LMGs have the same problem, and it's just that they're really, really clunky and hard to move around with, which doesn't really suit the way that this game is played. That being said, if you're playing in objective mode such as Dom or Occupy, and you're trying to hold down a position, oh my god, like, being able to just put 100 rounds down range. There were so many times in the few games that I played with the M60 where I would just be holding an angle and people would peek me and I would just be holding the trigger and just shooting the entire time because there was no reason for me to stop. The M60 definitely had a better reload time than the M80 did as well, which is kind of a big deal. But the fire rate is slower, and I wasn't really sure where I felt about that, just because the M60, like, the lower fire rate meant that I was getting less kills when people would peek me. There was a lot of times where I would do like 70 to 90 damage on somebody, and then they'd run back around the corner, whereas like with the M80, I didn't feel like that was happening a lot. But it also meant that I could just put suppressing fire down for a lot longer because the M60 just never really stopped shooting. And then, like I said, the reload time on it was actually pretty quick, all things considered. So I thought it was really good. I think it could use, you know, I think all of the LMGs could use a little bit of like handling adjustments out of the beta. Like I would just like them to be a little bit more. I know they're not supposed to be running around with an LMG, but I would at least like that I could like come out of a sprint and like at least try to kill somebody. The LMGs now, if you're coming out of a sprint and you try to kill somebody, you're not getting the kill whatsoever. But that brings me to the M80, which I'm gonna put up here, also in the B tier. Like I said, just a better rate of fire. The reload time was a lot slower on it, but that being said, like the M80 was really strong. I used it a lot. Anything that had a mid to long range engagement, any map like that, I thought the M80 was perfect for. 100 bullets lets you just sling stuff down range. And the recoil on it was pretty manageable as well. I could put a 3-time sight on it, which was a pretty big advantage because almost every time I put a 3-time sight on a gun, it just was like inoperable for me. So getting a 3-time sight and being able to like look down long hallways and stuff and like kill enemies that way, really good. Recoil control was like super easy. Probably the best LMG out of the 3, but it wasn't better than like any of the assault rifles or anything like that in my opinion, or at least not significantly so. Bringing me to the RPK, this thing is F tier, absolutely awful. The handling on it sucked. The damage on it sucked. Just the gun sucks. Like I didn't have fun with it. I tried a lot of different builds on it. I tried to make it work, and every time I didn't finish a single game with it. I did not like using it. I did my best to try to finish a game with it, but I couldn't do it. I hated playing with it. It felt clunky. I didn't like it at all. So definitely F tier. Probably the worst gun in the entire game, in my opinion. Then a bit confused now. So what I said about the M80, I meant about the M249. I don't think there is an M80 in the game, so we'll just accept that. What I said was about the M249. Let's move over to the assault rifles. Start with the ACR. I think everybody knows the ACR is really good. A tier. I mean, it might be better than the SVD, but I like the SVD a little bit better. I mean, it's no recoil, 4 to 5 bullets to kill, decent fire rate. The ACR has always been a really good gun in every single COD. It's going to be good in this game. I just think that there are better assault rifles than it. But it's not terrible. It's going to be one of those guns that you get tired of getting killed by, but I don't think it's going to be the best assault rifle, assuming that they all stay the same. Takes me to the M4. I really think the M4 and the ACR kind of sit in the same place. I liked the M4 a little bit better than the ACR, but I think the ACR is overall a better gun. I just think the M4, like maybe it was just the fact that the M4, like not a lot of people were using it. I think the ACR did better in long range, whereas the M4 did better in close range, but you know, overall, like they're about the same, but I would probably put the ACR just a tiny leg up above the M4. The M16 is such a tough one for me because it has S tier potential, with like D tier consistency. And so I'm gonna put it in C tier. I think it's like a top of C tier gun. It's really good. I mean, like there were a lot of like 1 burst and 2 bursts that I was getting, and I had like 3-on-1 and 4-on-1 engagements that I was winning with the M16, and it felt really, really good when those were happening. But there were also plenty of times where I'd shoot somebody in the back. 2 of my bullets wouldn't register, and then, you know, I put 2 more bursts down range and none of them hit, and then I get turned, like they turn around and they kill me, and it's just like, okay, I don't want to play with this anymore. It's super frustrating. You know, again, it might come down to the hit detection, but you know, it's S tier potential. The M16 might be the best gun in the game if they fix the fact that half the bullets don't register when you're doing a burst. It also could have just been a recoil thing that I wasn't really recognizing in the moment, but the M16's good. I mean, it's solid. It's so inconsistent that I really can't put it any higher than a C tier. Leaving us with the AK. I think the AK is actually the best assault rifle. I actually might even put it S tier. It does have the fastest time to kill, I was told. With single, like if you get a single headshot and then 3 body shots, it's the fastest time to kill. Otherwise, all the guns are the same. But the AK is really strong. The recoil management is really easy on it, and it puts a lot of bullets down range at the same time. It was the first gun that I picked up, and I struggled with it a little bit. But when I came back to it after I'd gotten a feel for the game, I don't think I feel like I consistently dropped a lot of kills, at least 30 kills in every game that I played. The AK is good. It probably is the best assault rifle as of right now, unless some adjustments are made to it. And I saw a lot of people using it. It's very strong. I don't see them leaving it the way that it is right now. I think they're going to make some adjustments to it before the game comes out. Finally, the submachine guns definitely like outclass every single gun on the list just by itself. That being said, they all kind of have their own niche kind of things about them. So I'll start with the Vector. This is probably the one I played the least with, but had like a very quick impression of. And I'll put the Vector at the top of B tier. I mean, this thing spits bullets downrange incredibly quickly. It probably is the fastest firing gun in the game. If I'm wrong about that, I would be surprised. That being said, so if I got into an engagement with at less than 10 meters and I hip fired, I was always winning the gunfight. But very rarely was I getting into engagements at less than 10 meters. And the recoil on, like, just with how many bullets it would put downrange was impossible to control. You know, it might be a little bit better on controller with some aim assist, but it felt like the bullets were constantly just missing the target. And I don't think there was a single time where I was facing 2 enemies, and there were plenty of times where they weren't even looking at me, that I lost the gunfight just because it doesn't output enough damage to really contest with the other SMGs that are on the list. Speaking of which, the MP7, which I'm gonna put just above the Vector. I thought it was better than the Vector, but struggled with the same problem of like the recoil control of it was just really difficult to control. And you know, it's not bad. I heard a lot of people saying that they liked it. I did not like it personally. I thought that the recoil of it was really difficult to manage, and you know, like the benefit of it was that I felt like anytime I got into 2 or 3-on-1 engagements, I was winning a lot of them. But that's only if I was hitting a lot of shots. The time to kill on it's kind of slow. It's not my favorite. I don't think it's the best SMG out of the group, but it's definitely not the worst. I think it's better than the Vector. Puts a lot of bullets down range, but any engagement outside of like 15, 20 meters, you're probably not winning if they have any decent SMG. Speaking of which, the MP5, top of A tier. I mean, this thing was shredding when I was playing with it. The recoil on it's pretty decent. It's got a decent medium range engagement. It's strong. I'd even be willing to put it up at S tier if it could compete with the P90, but it can't. But it is good. It's a good secondary option. I mean, it's good. I liked it a lot. I thought it was one of the better weapons in the beta. But it was nowhere near as good as the P90. I think the P90 is the best gun in the game. Anytime I picked up the P90, I mean, it's got good long range, good short range, good damage, good fire rate. The clip size is awesome. It's the best gun. You know, it competes with everything. It's best at close range, best in a medium case scenario outside of like a few niche cases. And the recoil is like pretty much non-existent on it. It does decent damage per second. I mean, I can't sing enough high praises about the P90. I think they're going to need to make some adjustments to it. But as of right now, I think it's the best gun in the game. I can't imagine that there's too much that they can really do outside of just slowing down the fire rate on it, or maybe making the recoil a little bit worse. That's going to make this thing not at least like a B tier gun in the long term. But like I said, this SMGs are just naturally like better in this kind of game environment because the maps are really tight. The engagements are all close quarters for the most part, and generally speaking, like it's just it's a game built around SMGs. There's a lot of movement-based stuff, so the SMGs are going to thrive. The P90 did that the best. So that being said, I don't know what the M80 is. I didn't see the M80 in the beta as far as I remember. Maybe I'm misremembering, and if I am, then I'll go back and try to fix this. But this is the weapons tier list. This is what I think. If you agree with me, let me know. If you don't, let me know. Where do you think I was wrong? And if you really enjoyed the beta, let me know what you liked about it. I'm going to be talking about the beta for the next couple of days. I really enjoyed it personally, but I'm going to get into that when I do a review of the beta and what I'm hoping and what my expectations are for the full game. So if you enjoyed this, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.